lovely homes, and we need to actually tackle the fire. Getting back to the metaphysics of love versus hate, the questions that have been asked many times regarding the metaphysics of power required of spirit to intercede our will between agape love, true love, natural order love, not that other kind of love, okay, which is the same word in English, versus hate is like night and day. I don't have a magnet in front of me here. Well, maybe I do. Here we go. I've always got a magnet somewhere. We actually have the centrifugal field here. We have the centripetal here. You know, either side of a magnet, we could say, well, there's a pole here and a pole there. It's like, well, this is literally the only force vector along the centrifugal edge, and that does require power to create the magnetic field. And of course, magnetism is a dielectric field, loss of energy or inertia. But the centripetal is the opposite. I always wince and cringe anytime I hear the words force of gravity, or regarding something accelerating towards something else. That is the opposite of force. That's rest or inertia. Agape love and love itself does not require power at all. The expenditure is the same. It is itself rest power, or rest inertia, as I call it. Of course, you could take your pick. You know, gravity is not a force. It's the complete opposite of a force, and it is an anti-field. When the expenditure of hatred and energy is expelled or is terminated, whether it's done willfully or it's done by fact that you've completely run out of energy, we actually have rest acceleration. It's unfortunate that nobody's a truth seeker anymore. There were a few people to begin with throughout countless ages, but less and less and less. Now, when I tell somebody something that I'm talking to, and they don't listen, you start to see their eyes glaze over. Unfortunately, they have an iPad or an iPhone ideation of things where they can't listen to anything more than like 30 seconds long, or their eyes start to glaze over. They have no attention span, and that really has completely destroyed people that are truth seekers. The consequences of stepping in when the fires of hatred are ablaze, kind of like I experienced just recently. You know, a really horrible person was trying to get me riled up, and you just make yourself like a piece of clear glass. I mean, what are you worried about them burning themselves up? What they're doing is they're projecting, their own fear and anger and self-loathing and trying to destroy others around them.
Themselves.
It's the cheap
practicing on you. What relations are worth that, He was talking about the two kinds of love. Violence in defense and violence in offense. Ignorance intent. I recently was learning about Hermes here. And there are at least two expressions. One is the Hades Hermes, the underworld. And immediately that made me think of the 12th, 6th house axis. Western tropically, Virgo is the 6th house. It's said the house of bad man. Image, essentially. It's the unconscious results of our dealings, our workings in reality, in relation to figuring out who we are as we transform through this thing called life. So Neptune, Jupiter, and Hades are connected to Hermes in a way here, the imagination, the unconscious. And on the cross of realization is Prometheus. It's the rising awareness. So I learned in life, I could only use my fire in defense that was pure. If it was only in defense of my ego, the fire would not burn. And I thought that was a source of weakness in me. I didn't know what it was. As I got older, I thought it was a result of trauma, early abuse when I was young. And as I grew and realized differently, I realized what it was. It's an impurity that I cannot hold that charge. It has to be real. The first expressions of that were in conflict with others as a child. Power dynamics, shadow projections, Saturnian energy squares and the maturation, if you look at the progression of any chart, is that the house moves and the planets do as well, but not quite as much. I mean the outer planets and the Saturn, Jupiter, and the outers. And the nodes, they don't move much. So in life, you will experience transformation of those energies. You can look at tarot cards for any of your planets and you can see the progression of those energies naturally. You can look at your progressions and you can understand how sidereal interpretation is source energy and how Western tropical interpretation is psyche realized in life, your budding awareness. And so when you look or consider progressions, you can understand your processes a little bit easier, your themes. So where I was going with Saturn, now it's conjunct my MC in a T-square with Uranus, Mercury on my AC/DC, and Chiron. So the wisdom of these conflicts is a slow maturation, and it's through the tempering of my passions, basically, and the controlled power. Where does the energy go? Where does the wind, where do you give your wind, your mental focus, your attention? How do you burn that I can use fire to create or to burn something down. I can hold it and let it turn me into something else. But the good thing with Mars in Aries is it's a quick ignition. You don't hold things unless they're real. So ego shit, it's not going to really work. So you have to release gimmicks. Or hold a fight. And bring that to everything you encounter in some weird way. Now what we do is always maturing, so we're always going to be burning shadow. And I actually feel that's the food of life, that's the nourishment of the spirit taken from, it's kind of like a camel carries a lot of water to make long journeys. It's almost like the soul is this endless unknown holding all the shadow. The shadow is expressing, it's the actual thing coming through us. And it's laying a progeny of its own realization as it intrigues us in experiences to continue the curious reach, the fall, the climb. So now this sacred fire, this sacred anger, it's primal, it's a motherly energy. Reality is like a mother, it gives birth to all conceptual potentials. And the truth is malleable, but there are certain expressions in reality which seem eternal. And we conceptualize them in our deities, our gods, goddesses, in our beliefs, in our philosophies, in our architecture. So people are feeling the Palace energies rise, feeling Athena rise. This needing to come to the defense of sacred fires. And people are either finding a place for that to burn out there, or they're finding a place for it to burn within. Either way, there will be a meeting point for everyone, where you come back to the self with the fire, and if it's worth it, you hold it and you nurture it, and if it isn't, you release. Spirit that's born from the problem cannot be transformed without an other, without the separation. Those who step out of the box and give new reflection to what the problem thought it was. This is kind of what happens in life naturally within us and within societies. And we know this because there are two things that can stop progress: mistakes, or the death of absolutions, or the completion of an absolution. It's kind of like the yin giving birth to the yang giving birth to the yin. There are analogies for these things in life, and you see the patterns unfold in real life. Too much yang turns to yin, so it's you see these fiery guys who are all jacked up and they're on steroids or something else, and they can hold that for 5-10 years and then they drop and they fade quick unless they have a very regimented scientific approach. Or you see it with a police department. Say the police department gets too big. There's too many police. It generates a need for the other, for conflict, for yin, and so the yang begins to turn yin in order to balance out naturally. And you will get corrupt cops, broken systems, corrupt politicians, insiders, rats, you know. You build something too big and you have to maintain what that is. When I was in IT, I never added any complexity that didn't have a benefit. Because when you turn everything on and you optimize all this crap, any slight deviation creates a problem, and you have to track where the problem is. Sometimes it's a symptomatic issue to something a configuration that's baked into the initial installation. And yeah, you can upgrade and do all these other things, and some people are into that. They like that cutting edge tech. But when you want to establish performance and functionality, you have to baseline things. You have to give them time to mature. And that's how a lot of things in life are. And part of that maturing process is good turning to bad, bad turning to good. Ignorance being transformed into a gift. And you bear those fruits and you reap the rewards. And some people will call it wisdom, some people will call it luck. Doesn't really matter. It's the results which are the key. Sometimes you have to be selfish for yourself in life. Because until you do that, you just carry this falsehood around and the people you care about, they can't benefit from your true self because you're holding it back, and there's a quiet discontention that's in between you and the other. So taking the idea of divine anger, using the power of that spirit towards transformation for self. When your intentions are good and you're clear in your heart, you're following what feels right, then the mind will be able to respond rather than react. And you always find the way to complete something, to achieve something, if you truly are in alignment with this desire, whatever it is you are carrying in your fire. So hold the charge for yourself. Don't project it into someone else's gravity. If they try and take your spirit, be like glass, be like water. Find your flow. You know, you don't need to be right all the time, but you will be right at the times that it counts when you're following your own flow. And it doesn't matter if other people understand it or know it. They'll figure it out on their own eventually, and they'll see the results in you. And that's a gift you can give others in this world, to help them wake up and realize their own potentials. So sometimes you gotta face those things of your own volition, some say head on. But you don't need to know everything, you just stumble through it, you just begin falling into it. If your heart is set, you will find the words, you will get the results, you will find the way. And you're going to be tested in life anyway, if you're content or you're not. You know, it's just part of the experience. So might as well make it worth more by doing something with that tension, putting it to form. That's all I want to say. Thanks for watching, listening, and being.